All right, let's just dive right into this explainer, shall we? We're going to skip the usual pleasantries today because, well, we need to pull up a chair and talk about a real, frankly, terrifying story. It's drawn directly from our source material about the actual physical consequences of a major sugar habit. You know, we constantly hear warnings about sugar, but they always feel kind of abstract, don't they? Like, oh, it's bad for you. But today we're looking at what actually happens when you ignore those warnings. We're mapping out a first-hand account of tooth decay that is literally as fascinating as it is horrifying.
Listen closely, kid, because once the black spots appear, the nightmare begins. Your parents are always telling you not to eat too much sugar. But when you're a kid, you just don't get it, right? It tastes amazing. Why on earth would something so delicious be so bad for you? Well, this quote right here completely shatters that childhood illusion. Eating whole bowls of sweet, tasty candies is not just a harmless pastime. The narrator of our source text was exactly like that, totally ignoring the warnings because the immediate reward was just, well, too sweet. But as we're going to see, that sweetness hides a pretty brutal reality.
They actually wrote, "I thought my teeth were invincible, cracking candy like glass. I was wrong." And man, does that perfectly illustrate the hubris we all have when we're young. The sheer ease of crushing hard candy was really just a prelude to the grim, intensely painful reality that followed. The narrator describes this period where their teeth literally never hurt, even after devouring an entire bowl of candy in one sitting. It's that feeling of absolute, unbreakable youth. But the stark contrast of what happens next is just sobering. We're talking weak, severely inflamed gums and intense, totally unavoidable pain.
Which brings us to Section 1, the silent warning. Ignorance is not bliss.
So suddenly, eating candy just stopped being fun. But the very first time the narrator felt a sharp pang of pain after eating it, what do you think they did? Yep, they completely dismissed it. It's such a human reaction, isn't it? We feel a minor discomfort and we just brush it off, hoping it magically goes away on its own. The narrator stubbornly ignored this very first physical warning, convincing themselves it was just a weird fluke in an otherwise flawless record of candy eating.
Because as they tell it, it starts with a tiny dark dot, a silent warning they ignored. The narrator actually saw the black spot right there on their tooth, but they just didn't know what it meant. They didn't recognize it as this unheeded, blaring warning sign of impending decay. It wasn't flashing red, you know? It didn't set off loud alarms. It just sat there, quietly, a microscopic little monument to the massive damage that was already unfolding right beneath the surface.
Moving on to Section 2. The painful escalation, a systemic breakdown.
Okay, so day one is just the appearance of that tiny black spot. But then came the thirst, the pain, and the weird stomach stuff. Before we even get to the dentist chair, the narrator details experiencing these crazy systemic reactions. Constant thirst, taking frequent, non-stop trips to the bathroom, and eventually, weird stomach issues begin to pop up. The joy of eating candy was completely gone, literally replaced by suffering. It brilliantly shows how a simple, highly localized issue can spiral into a full-body breakdown when you just leave it unchecked.
3. That's how many times a day they started brushing. Because as the pain got significantly worse, absolute panic finally set in. The narrator began frantically brushing their teeth 3 times a day, just hoping, praying to reverse the damage and wash away the consequences. But honestly, it was a tragedy of timing. It was way too late. Once that black spot started its insidious spreading, no amount of frantic brushing was going to save them. The decay had already taken root, and according to our source material, it absolutely would not stop unless it was physically removed.
And that leads us right into Section 3, the dentist chair, the point of no return.
So, the crucial point here is this absolutely devastating number, 6. Because those initial, silent warnings were dismissed, the relentless decay didn't just stop at one tooth. No way. It spread to 6 of the narrator's molars. 6 crucial teeth totally compromised, all stemming from that single, tiny, ignored black spot. Imagine your whole jaw shaking as the dentist fights to save what's left of your 6 rotting molars.
Because then came the drilling nightmare. The narrator's gums were already super weak and severely inflamed, and this wasn't an easy fix. We are talking about intense, unavoidable, completely visceral pain. The dentist starts drilling into the rotting molars, and the narrator's jaw, their entire mouth, is just shaking uncontrollably. That childhood illusion of being this invincible candy crusher, yeah, it is completely shattered right here in the dentist's chair.
Section 4. Escaping the nightmare. The survivor's mandate.
So, the narrator walks away with a very, very hard-learned lesson. Step 1, brush your teeth. Step 2, do not eat too much sugar. And Step 3, take vitamins for your gums so they don't become weak and inflamed. These aren't just polite suggestions anymore. They are the absolute rules of survival, drawn from an incredibly painful experience.
Which brings us to a final, really important thought for this explainer. The warning signs, as we've seen today, are completely silent. A tiny dark dot, a fleeting moment of pain. Are you ignoring yours? Seriously, don't wait until it's too late. Put down the sugar, brush your teeth, or you're next. Take a moment to really think about that. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.